Om is a very powerful sound. It is a frequency of creation. It is the primordial frequency of what I would call order. So, if there is chaos in our own field, if there is chaos or disorder or lack of coherence in the planetary field, then chanting Om is the most powerful and a very simple way to bring balance into this world. So, if you can, my Oms are very deep. Try a deep Om to really vibrate the entire being. It will clear so much for not only us, but the entire planet. So let us start with that to clear that quantum field that exists between all of us. Thank you. Om is really the most powerful tool that you can use to make this world a really great place. My name is Adi, and I started the greentara.guru website really in 2020. I've been on this journey just like all of you who are here all your life. We didn't come here really to have just a human life. We came here because we were called to service. Many of you are remembering, many of you have always remembered. And I also believe that as we have moved into the year 2021, we are being activated to remember even more of why we are here. And this is not just some kind of fairy tale like, oh, I want to have a mission, so I have a mission. No, we came here with a very specific mission. So for me, just like you, I came here with a very specific mission. Well, we actually have multiple missions, but one of the missions that I came here with was to speak. And not because it's about talking to people, but it is because when you are in the planetary grid of a planet, then you are creating a frequency. And the frequency is not exactly just what you speak, but it is also the tone within you that you always vibrate. And so I say that is my mission, but it is also your mission to have the vibration that activates others and activates the planetary grid. So I do a little bit of an introduction. I always try to do it a little bit differently, just to show a different aspect of why we are here. So this is nothing personal. It's really not about me. It's about us. So many of us who came here on this rescue mission, I'm going to call it the rescue mission of planet Earth, we came here with our rainbow bodies. The rainbow body, you mainly will hear about it among Native Americans, but you also will hear about the rainbow body in Tibetan Buddhism. The rainbow body is really our blueprint. So when we came here as beings, originally, really millions of years ago, when we started life on planet Earth, we came out of the rainbow body of a larger being that you could call the planetary logos. The planetary logos is a rainbow being because all beings coming from source have the rainbow frequency. It is not just 7 colors of the rainbow, it's a 12-dimensional rainbow, which is what you could call our divine self or our I am presence. So when we came, you and me, into this world, we came because we were sent here. We volunteered to come here. We wanted to help planet Earth. And today's call is about the grid. So when you come here as a rainbow child, and I mean, you know, no matter how old you always are a being that was created. So let's call us children. So when you come here and you bring your rainbow with you, you are actually bringing the original blueprint of creation with you. This blueprint got lost on planet Earth for various reasons. But this rainbow body, because it is our original blueprint, is what I always call Jesus, Uncle Jesus, because he's one of our really great teachers of humanity. He still is a teacher in the ethers, and all these beings have a huge desire to assist humanity and planet Earth to transform, really. And so he said, Jesus, that Uncle Jesus, that we all are gods. And so when you look at a human being and you look at, you know, the form of a human being, that we are in a human vessel, we don't look like gods. But deep inside of us, if we looked into our original blueprint, we would see this. We would see this rainbow body. And this rainbow body is the body of what you would call gods, really, beings that are perfect. And that doesn't mean that they are complete. It just means that this is the perfect blueprint where the energy flows in and out. You are a receiver, transmitter. You are the perfect transmitter of source light. And so you are reflection of source. So this is how I remember coming into this world. And that as a child, I would be traveling to other dimensions. And I had a lot of guides who came with me. So I think just like you know, I really want you to know that when I talk about myself, it's not to speak about myself. It's just to help us remember, and maybe just to give you validation that your experiences are as important as everybody else's. So for me, my guides were guiding me through my childhood. I had a lot of out-of-body travel to different dimensions, and also knowing that we came here for this really big mission. When I was about 13, I had an encounter with a being that I would call Mother Mary, so divine feminine. And she showed me, you know, the vastness of who we are, how actually we are incredibly large light bodies. And that, you know, to fit something like that in a human body, that's actually miraculous. So the human body is a very small container for who we really are. So I learned about the light body and how vast it is, that many of us hold a light body that can actually hold an entire continent. And also when you look at big beings that came here to really rescue, again, humanity, planet Earth, or at least they tried, like one of my inner teachers, Yogananda, and many other yogis and, you know, teachers from all different traditions, they would have a body, light body, that could hold the entire world in their light body. And so we had teachers and masters who would never leave the cave, who would never leave the house. You know, they would sit in their room, and yet they would be influencing consciousness on an entire planet. So that's pretty remarkable. So for me, when I had my encounter with the divine feminine goddess, she sent me back into the body. She said my journey and mission was to grow along the tree of life, just like all of us. Within us is an energetic pathway. It is the tree of life. It is mainly studied by the Kabbalistic tradition, but it actually is a map for the growth of our consciousness. And so this is very important for where we are at right now as humanity, because we can think of all of us as seeds on planet Earth. And, you know, very often these divine beings, they refer to us as children, and that the time has come for us to graduate and to become the trees instead of seeds. And so when you look at the entire planet, you will see some seeds, maybe many seeds, but you will also see some trees. And those are the beings who have traveled along the tree of life within themselves, within the consciousness, and they have reached source in this physical vessel. So that again applies to all of us. I definitely have always used meditation to be my way of having access to these worlds. And meditation is not a goal. That is not the goal for us to meditate every day. But meditation is a tool that helps us to evolve our own nervous system so that we can have access to these different worlds that ideally lead us to source. One of the things that you probably know from our history is that, our history really, as we know it, I guess most of us know our history back to the end of Atlantis when we had the Great Flood, that many people think that it's a myth, but actually it did happen, and many of us experienced it personally. For me, that's a very strong memory of what happened and why it happened and why it should never happen again. So when you think of the history as most humans know it, which is just a very short history, then we really don't remember the fullness of who we are. We've had so many teachers trying to come here and remind us that worshiping multiple gods is actually taking us away from our connection with Source. And that's something that, again, is happening right now, I would say, because we have so many gods that, we worship, but actually there is just one source, and it is source of all that is. Many of you are source beings because we have source beings and then we have creator beings. And of course, every being in creation is a creator. We are creators too. And so even we have babies and we create life. But in terms of cosmic creation, what happened to us since the flood is that, like let's say ancient Egypt, that would happen after the flood. Again, the beings there, they were worshiping different gods. And when you start worshiping different gods, or what happened when Jesus was here embodied on planet Earth, he was also teaching that there is only one source. And so when we worship different gods, we actually, don't devote enough of our devotional love to source. And so when I talk about it, I say, like right now we have a lot of adoration for the galactic beings, but the galactic beings are just our neighbors. And so imagine if you live in a neighborhood and you would start worshiping your neighbor, and it's only because they are not in your house, they are in somebody else's house. So that's how it is in the field of creation. The goal for all of us, all beings and all of creation, is not to forget our origin, and that is source. So that's again happening on planet Earth right now. Oh, I wanted to share my experience with Jesus. So I would always use meditation to have access to these higher, I guess, dimensions. And one day I met the being that we would call Jesus, Christ light, really. And Christ light is not only associated with Jesus, but Christ light is the intelligent life force that emanates from source. It is the portal to source. And so we have beings that we are told were associated with the Christ light, like the Buddha or Krishna, but it really doesn't matter. I think all of us really have Christ light within us, and we can follow it to meet source and get to know source. So for me, Jesus came to me after many hours of meditation one day, and I would say he, even though it was light, held me in his presence for 24 hours. Now, when that happened, my consciousness completely got flooded with something I really didn't know existed. And it was knowing of a state of being that normally doesn't exist really in human experience. And there are no words to describe it, but I will try, because this state of being was missing something. It was missing every form of the virus we have here on planet Earth. We have a distortion that runs through the planetary grid. And that distortion, I will explain later, has many different forms, but the main form of this distortion is fear. And I didn't think of myself as a fearful person. I was living a balanced, good life, and I didn't have any major fears. But when I was in the presence of this being, the Christ light, then I realized that in that presence, you actually only feel absolutely all encompassing, radiant, all pervading, indescribable love. And that fear is absolutely absent. So it became obvious to me that there is a state of being for us as humanity that we will reach. I asked Christ why I'm experiencing that and why, 24 hours really a very big experience. And he, if I, again, I'm not saying that it was a she told me it is a map for humanity. It is our destination. Our destination, or our destiny, let's call it, is to achieve that state again, the state of absolute radiance, the God within that is so radiant that nothing else can ever shake it, diminish it, distort it. It is the greatest feeling of all-encompassing love that we can't even imagine. I have never experienced that again, so this was around the year 2007. But as he said, it gave me a map. It's a map that now helps us to get to that state through effort, really. And effort is not always fun. So again, this is a little bit of part of my introduction, but again, it applies to all of us. So I got to meet a being called the Planetary Logos. And I have a picture here from a really wonderful artist that I like, who made a picture of the internal rainbow serpent, but also the rainbow serpent as the energy that is a cosmic energy that creates life. And you can call it Planetary Logos. Planetary Logos had many names in our world. People called Planetary Logos Sanat Kumara. And if you like that name, I like calling Sanat Kumara Sanat Kumara. You can do that. Sanat Kumara is a being that can take on any form, just like all beings in the field of creation in these higher planes can do. So let's say Yogananda, if you've read his autobiography of a yogi, describes how when the yogis met God, the creator would take on any form the yogis related to. So for every yogi, God would look different. And I think that's the magic behind all things. There is no fixed form. There is only light and frequency that creates all that is. And so it is up to our imagination. For me, when I encountered Divine Mother and Sanat Kumara and the Rainbow Serpent, they take on so many different forms. But the thing is that in the essence, there is a creator being that created, let's say, life on planet Earth. And I'm going to call that being the Planetary Logos or the Rainbow Serpent. So the Rainbow Serpent is also within us, not only in the planet, but within us. And how that relates again to the planetary grid that we are speaking about today. It relates in a way that when the Rainbow Serpent is nourished and in a balanced, harmonious world where people or the beings have a relationship with their own planetary creator, just like our native people do, worshiping Pachamama every day, several times a day, giving Pachamama, Mother Earth, gifts. That is a relationship that our humanity has been missing for most of us, definitely in this modern society. But again, it's forgetting who the creator is. And when you forget who the creator is, you really are like an orphan that cannot do really well without the support of the parents. And so that's again what happened on planet Earth. And when this Rainbow Serpent is fully acknowledged, loved, worshipped, worship is a strange word because it reminds us of religions, but let's call it adoration and gratitude. We have gratitude for Mother Nature, and that is our Mother Nature. Our Mother Nature is the Rainbow Serpent, Planetary Logos in the planet, and it used to provide protection to our planet. But when our planetary grid became is the word intact? No. When it became incoherent and disturbed, then also the power of the Rainbow Serpent, the soul of the planet, became disconnected from most of us. And that's why inside of us we have this dormant life force that for most people is not active. I don't want to call it Kundalini because that's not exactly, Kundalini means coiled serpent. And so yes, inside of us is this coiled life force that can rise like a serpent. So it's a really important understanding to have of life force. what is happening and has been happening since, for me, this really started to happen on a planetary scale in 2017. We experienced something really magical. Some people would call it the return of divine feminine. It definitely is the return of our divine mother. Divine mother also can be called, divine mother, father, God, because all these beings in higher dimensions, they can be perceived as a he, she. So not necessarily just he or she. So divine mother started to return more and more into our world, into the consciousness in humanity. Since 2017, it's a very intense process. As you know, in 2020, our world really changed. For many of you, you started to remember things that you had no access to before. Same for me. We got activated back to our 12-dimensional DNA, which allows us to perceive all 12 dimensions simultaneously. Now, this might not be the case for everyone, but the thing is that the blueprint is here for everyone. And so at the beginning of 2020, this ancient darkness that was here had to leave. And I'm not at all a conspiracy theorist. I just say what I know to be true, but that also doesn't mean that it's true. But from my perspective of seeing stuff and working with these beings, at the beginning of 2020, this ancient darkness that was within us, it was within our bodies, it was blocking our fullness, had to leave. So that allowed all of us immediate access to 12 dimensions. Our creation field exists in 12 dimensions, and all 12 dimensions you have access to. The 12th dimension, the last one, is the dimension of source. And so every single one of us has access to source. The dimensions, I spoke about them before, they are like different planes of reality, but we can definitely travel through all of them and learn in all of them, and we can exist as one being in all of them. So in 2020, Divine Mother came to humanity even more strongly. So Divine Mother would be definitely this emanation from source that we call creation, that got disconnected from humanity because of many things. Now she is flowing through us very intensely. And in 2021, we are now being activated, mainly the part of our divine feminine. So our nervous system is being rewired with this energy of divine feminine. Again, this all has to do with our planet and with the planetary grid. For we are held in the planetary grid, and as we are held in it, we all play a very important role. So imagine that you are like a node of light within the planetary grid. And when the grid wants to expand, which is what she's doing, then you have to expand with her. So we are being stretched by our own planet, the Divine Mother, the planetary logos. Now, this has a lot to do with our reality. The planetary grid, and many of you here on this call are what I would call grid workers. Now, I don't consider myself to be necessarily a grid worker, but at the same time, we all are. We all are in the grid. And so what you think, what you feel, what you do, what you say, how your light body is spinning, how you work on your light body, how you work on your, even human part, right? So physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, it all affects the grid. Now, this is a great mission. This is a mission that the beings that I work with, the council, they call, it's a planetary mission, anchoring light. So when you are in this grid, you are constantly affecting it. That's why when we do group meditations, when we do planetary meditations, when we do meditations, with as many people as possible who are coherent, of course, then we can create big planetary changes. So, the Institute of Heart Math, they did a lot of amazing experiments with people meditating at the same time, and I'm sure you heard about some of those. where when a lot of people meditate and focus on peace, then there are lower rates in crime, and it really impacts the entire planet. You also know when humanity is in a state of chaos, it also impacts the planet and the weather conditions and so on. So it's all connected. The way that realities work is that realities are what I call dreams. And that's okay because every single reality really is a hologram, it's a dream, it's created through the creative force of beings. Now, I think that on this planet we got used to the idea that we are the only illusion that exists, but actually every single field of creation can also be called illusion. But instead of calling it an illusion, let's call it a hologram reality. So when you have a hologram reality, it can be very beautiful when you have coherent beings who are co-creating it and who are in a state of oneness, like it is in other dimensions, but also on other planets. So again, if you like Yogananda, like I love Yogananda, then if you read his book, then you know that his teacher, Sri Yukteswar, after he left his physical body here, he was taken onto the next mission to a planet that is not known to us, called Hiranya Loka. Now, this is a very advanced planet where beings are working on very, high level missions. And it's just interesting when you think about it that there are so many planets we don't even know that exist because they are not physical. And so they are just another hologram, another dream world that exists within the dream. And that's where beings are experiencing different realities. And so here on planet Earth, we had a very beautiful hologram. We had the hologram of life that included biological life, that had rainbow beings who came here to create the first, let's say, continent, Mu, the motherland. And these beings were dreaming and creating life out of light and frequency. Now, eventually, and this is again a very long time ago, this hologram got damaged. And that can happen for two reasons. When you have a beautiful planetary rainbow body around the planet, it serves as firewall, it serves as protection. It's very magnetic, and so through the physical forces of magnetism, each world is protected by the coherence of the rainbow body of each planet. When that coherence is not in place, it creates holes in the planetary field, in the grid, and that allows beings who might not have the greatest intentions or the highest frequency to enter. I mentioned before that for me, my experience is definitely with other planets and visiting other worlds. And when you want to visit a high dimensional world, you have to be in the same or higher frequency than the world itself. So I gave an example last time of Venus, where there is basically the planetary grid serves as a lock, and it can only allow beings of high frequency who match or higher to enter the world. So when that got hijacked on planet Earth, it happens for two reasons. One reason is that, let's say we have a perfect world in which all beings have similar, very advanced, high loving frequency. And then suddenly, for some reason, some glitch in the system, you will get a being who will start misusing life force. And that's pretty much the story on planet Earth. So once you have just one being on an entire planet misusing life force, which is the greatest gift, right? Because it's a creation force. And when you have one being, just really, that's all it takes. It's like having kindergarten and one kid is very naughty and disturbs the balance of the whole place. So that's what happened on planet Earth. We had disturbances that came from within, where there was misuse of life force. You can also call it, let's say using life force is like doing magic. You are creating worlds into being. Misusing life force would be the opposite of what I would call white magic, because misusing life force leads to suffering. So once you have beings who misuse life force, it creates disturbance in the planetary grid, but that also means that now beings of much lower frequency can come into your world. And that's pretty much what happened here. We are trying to switch gears from this old disturbed planetary grid that so many light workers and so many grid workers tried to fix. But we also have light workers and grid workers who have been building, I would call it the New Earth hologram. You can call it the ancient grid, the original grid, or you can call it the New Earth grid. So we've had a lot of people who dedicated their service work to fixing the old. For example, when you see all the pyramids around the world, those were an amazing attempt to restore the original grid. Because our ancestors, and it might have been you and me in a past life, we knew that we needed to restore the grid because it's the grid that transmits reality to you. So it's like a TV channel. So when your TV channel is not what you like, then you need to fix the grid so that you can attune yourself to a whole new hologram, to a whole new reality. So we had so many attempts, creating a new electromagnetic field around the Earth to fix the hologram, to fix the planetary grid. But as you know, so far, it didn't really work because we still are in this reality that has very severe disturbances. But the grid is now being dissolved, this old one, and we are returning to the ancient grid that was intact, that will offer planetary protection, not only to humanity, but also to planet Earth. And that will be the complete rainbow body around the Earth. So you can call it the New Earth hologram. This channel already exists. It is not yet complete in a way that obviously we still have humans here in the old grid, and then we already have a lot of humans who have transitioned to the New Earth hologram. Now, the New Earth hologram, like I've been there 3 times that I know of consciously. It's possible we traveled there also unconsciously, I don't know. But for me, this is the world that it looks like. It looks like the Avatar movie. And I know, Lauren, you said without the drama, and that's exactly it. It's this perfect world of Mother Nature. And because it already exists, you can already travel there. Again, it's a world that has that energetic lock. So only when we are in a certain state of consciousness, we can enter. And that's why I think so many of us have entered, maybe spontaneously, accidentally, maybe consciously. But when we are there, we can learn so much from basically us, right? Just living in a different world, in a different dream. And so the planetary grid is really important. It is actually the key here. When you travel to the New Earth, you will realize that nature is the #1 element. Everything is integrated into nature. And we here are now transitioning. That's for sure. So the New Earth grid, I see it this way, that you and me and all of us have a huge responsibility. We are in a game right now that is not only it doesn't only depend on us, but we are also receiving a lot of assistance from other beings. And that is because if you can imagine a galactic world, let's say a galaxy or the cosmos, the ideal worlds are worlds in which beings thrive and they expand into more beauty, light work, harmony. And so having a world that is not thriving, like planet Earth was not really thriving or has not been thriving for a long time, it creates a lot of disturbance for other worlds. And so now you and me, what we can do, and what actually would be great if we could do, is to become these holders of frequencies, to become a very powerful vortex, each one of us, and to keep expanding our ability to hold source light and to anchor it into planet Earth and to make it available to all of humanity, but mainly because of the Earth, so that she can regain her rainbow body. This energy is also coming from outside, so from different galactic centers. And as it comes, If you are a reliable vortex, if you are a prepared body, let's call it this way, but light body really, more than the physical, it's the non-physical. If you are ready and you are able, then you will become a receiver for these energies. And of course, we need as many receivers as possible. It's almost like having, like the internet around the world. And so we need these nodes of light that is you to hold this and then make it available to the world. And the way we make it available, it's not by, doing call like this or telling people about it. It's really being it. And so we become the rainbow body portals. We have a light body, each one of you. And doing the work on the light body, I find right now is the most important step we can take. So we used to work on the grid, and our Green Tara Earth Guardians team work on the grid last year, like from September, every single day. The thing is that because the old grid really needed to dismantle, which is right now, it's going to dissolve completely, then the new grid will be activated not through, I'm just saying this is how I see it, okay? So like if you see something else, that's totally fine. But this is how it comes to me, is that we really now can activate the grid through our own being and through creating these vortices inside of us. And it doesn't have to be a special portal or some, ancient site. It can just be wherever you are. And so the light body portal, this is the ideal light body. This is where, you flow completely with the life force coming from the earth, but also the life force coming from source. And you are the one in the middle. Now, this is a being who doesn't have any veils. This is a being who doesn't have the personality filter. And it doesn't mean that we are not a person anymore. You can be, in all our traditions, when you can think of it, we were always taught by these great master beings and teachers that when we let go of the personality, we actually let in something much greater. And that is the true being that we are. And so, like a personality, I know exactly what it's like to have a personality. I'm in a human body, so I've developed a personality. But it is in those moments when we set the personality aside and we become so unconditional to source and to love and to light that we become blasted. And as long as we hold on to some likes and dislikes and preferences, then we are creating limitations within our own system. And so the grid work that we do right now, I believe, and this is how I see it, it is done through our light body. And so if you meditate, you always add more light to the light body. You bring coding in. And this is how the beings see you. They always see you as a light body. Nobody looks at our physical body from this higher perspective, but we are always visible as our light body. We have coding, we have frequencies, we have colors. And so this is my personal experience. When we are in these light bodies, let's say you leave your body at night and maybe you just asleep, it doesn't matter. Your light body goes, which is you, and does the work on this planetary grid. So the grid work gets done by the light body. I've seen beings who are working on this planet, who are here embodied in physical bodies, who when they go into the dream world as the light body, they travel around the entire planet, and wherever they go, their light body serves as alignment to the planetary grid. They clean the grid really just by existing, by being, by moving through. So it's really interesting for those of you who have traveled a lot or who have moved a lot. It's also really interesting to think about what actually needed you in the new place and why you traveled. Was it just for fun, or was it because you were called because of your light to be in certain places? So that's usually what happens. Now, to be coherent, you see, our planet is obviously, since we are within the body of the planetary logos, we would not exist without the planetary logos. Each one of us are a little piece, a little fractal in it. And so when many fractals become coherent emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, which really is energetically, then the planet becomes coherent too. Now, that immediately creates this beautiful protection field around the planet. So you see how we are one with the Earth, and the Earth is one with us. I think this is really inspiring, because it really comes down to our own personal responsibility. How do we show up in this world? Even if you, just like the yogis, sit in your room, never leave the house, you still are affecting all of humanity. And so the coherence has to come from the heart. Who is in the heart is coherent. That's it. Being in the heart is not easy for us humans because we've lived before and we are in the grid that currently is really still disturbed. And so, how do we really find our own coherence? I find that finding our own coherence comes from having a very innocent heart. And as we live on this planet, many beings from other dimensions, they tell us that in their worlds, they also have animals, they have plants, they have nature. Nature exists in every single dimension. And that you can tell the evolutionary stage of a being depending on how they treat other species, because every species holds a really valuable frequency that is needed in the world. I know, for example, that fish hold the frequency of joy on planet Earth. And so we all usually love pets. We love, our cute little ones. They hold beautiful frequencies, but so do all species on planet Earth. And so coherence is really something we can choose and find it maybe just through love for animals, love for nature. It's easy to feel that kind of love. So planetary protection is what we will want to create once we step into the new Earth grid. And I believe it will be possible. I don't know, guys, if you know Patricia Coda-Robles. She's a great planetary teacher. We have so many wonderful teachers in this world. I have aligned with Patricia for so many years. And she always says that the switch from the old Earth and the new Earth will happen in a twinkling of an eye. Now, I personally have had many visions about how that's going to happen, and I definitely believe it's going to be instantaneous. But while we are still dissolving the old grid and making this new grid active, we have work to do, even though it would be nice if it was just done to us, but we do need to do some work. So when I traveled to the new Earth, for me, the last journey was an out-of-body journey on January 9th, 2021. I met with many beings who already reside in the new Earth, but also all the guide beings who guide the future of humanity. And they gave me a task that day, and that was to bring through 33 codes for the new humanity. They asked me to sit down with the guides every single evening, which I did after meditating and preparing and bringing all the energies in. And so I sat down and we worked with our team as well on clearing the space, using the violet flame, so we would only have the cleanest, purest energies coming through. So the codes you can now find on the website, thegreentarot.guru. They really need to be printed and brought into physical expression beyond the internet, which we are working on right now. But I want to say about these codes. You are here because of you. I mean, your codes. Every single one of us who came here to planet Earth right now, in this lifetime, brought codes with them. For some of you, this means codes in your light body. For others, it means codes you bring as tones. It could be your frequency. It could be numbers. It could be symbols. For me, the codes came as words because I've been a scribe in my many lifetimes in different dimensions. So that's how I bring in codes. The codes come always as energy. And how you create the codes, it doesn't matter, whatever it is. If it's your art, that's your code. But each one of us came here with these special codes. These codes, as you know, all reality is coded. So everything works like a computer system. So when you bring your codes, let's say your code is singing, then you're going to be singing these different tones, and they are recoding this old reality and switching to the new. For me, these 33 codes, I was told, when they are distributed in a physical form around the world, each word in the code is wrapped up in golden diamond light. And each book, let's say if it's in a book, which is the intent, will just be a container for this golden diamond light. So I know a shaman who told me that when he goes to choose a book, let's say in a bookshop, he doesn't look at the titles, he doesn't look at the pictures, he doesn't care what the book says, but he just looks at which book emanates light. And so I was told when I was in New Earth that this book will be just emanating a huge diamond vortex of light wherever the book is. It doesn't matter if the person reads it or not. But these vortices of diamond light will be a really important activation, or they will serve as activation of the new grid. And this is just my little piece. Your piece is equally important. So every single one of us here is really working on the planetary grid and on the activation, and how that comes to you, that is your mission. So I also worked with Prashant in Australia, who opens, he's I don't know if he's on a call, but he does really beautiful work where he opens a portal between you and the guides, and they speak to you, come to you, work with you. I know some of you experienced it. I know Raven, you did that with Prashant yesterday. It's really powerful work. And so we opened a portal for these codes, and we were shown how these books, when they are distributed around the world, they actually will leave this golden diamond trace behind. So every time the book is shipped, it actually creates a pathway. So I'm just saying this is, one of the things that we do here on this beautiful planet. It's pretty amazing what is possible. Now, Janet, again, she's in our group. She sent me this today. This is absolutely amazing, and beautiful magic that we do here is really working on the grid. And this is what Janet is doing. Every time you create a representation of something, like let's say you have a planet Earth surrounded by crystals, you can do this amazing planetary magic. So ideally, we want to be only doing magic that always leads to greatness for all, and to be always in honor of life force. So I love this beautiful flower of life, which is the original blueprint of life. Now, the last week, we've been receiving a lot of life force activations. I don't know if you've been sleeping well, but usually it happens in the middle of the night where you can be awake, actually. That's how it happens for me. And I shared a method that I have been using for a long time, and that is chanting while focusing on the third eye in the middle of the night. Now, I do it in my head so I don't wake up other people. But if you wake up in the middle of the night, don't think about human things. Just focus on your third eye from within, like as if you were looking through your forehead, and start chanting a chant that you feel drawn to. I've tried many different ones, but my favorite ones are chanting Om in the third eye, also chanting, Green Tara mantra, Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soham, and also this beautiful Om Mani Padme Hum. And that, or just chanting I am, or I am, my I am presence, all of those have worked for me really miraculously. So what happens when you do this chanting while focusing on the third eye? So I've experienced two things that happen. Either your third eye opens completely and you start seeing, what's really happening energetically in the quantum field and in the galaxy, or you come out of body and you can keep chanting out of body that will take you to higher dimensions. Now, just being able to see what's happening, we are receiving immense activations from the galactic centers. They come to us as light, so I'll go back to this image. They come to us as bright light. They can go straight into your spinal cord. It awakens, again, the dormant life force within us. It can travel through the spinal cord, through all your energy centers. It can explode in the head. It feels like you have a solar explosion in your crown. So it can take on different forms. This is just how I experience it. It's 100% physical. If you see, then you will see it. If you feel, you will feel it. And for some people, they sleep through it and it still happens, you know? So it's like, it really happens to all of us. Now, chanting is very interesting because as we chanted Om at the beginning, Om is an amazing alignment where you align with the pure quantum field. So it's a really simple one. But as you know, these symbols that come to us right now, the way that I see them, they come as these ancient languages. So when I started to first see these transmissions, I realized why the Tibetans created these spinning wheels with the symbols on them. So these symbols, I believe, this is just a belief that I have, are light codes. And that when you meditate and you open your third eye and you start seeing them, they are being transmitted so fast that it looks as if a wheel was spinning. So I do believe that Tibetans actually, because they had access to these, you know, higher dimensional worlds like Shambhala, they knew that that's how it's done in these worlds. And so they recreated the same thing in the physical. And that really explains why they still use these wheels, because it activates your consciousness, it activates your pineal gland. And this is a great way to receive an activation in the physical world. So we all, every single one of us, we all play a really key role. Just like you see it here, this is you, this is me. We all are part of this amazing network. So what you do affects everyone, what I do affects everyone. It goes out as information. So whatever is inside of us really is what is transmitted, right? Whatever I say is transmitted. Whatever I do is transmitted. So when enough of us become coherent, when enough of us start really consciously using our light bodies, it affects every single one of us. And so again, what Patricia, for example, says, she says to start every meditation with, I am presence, and I am one with the I am presence of every child, woman, and man on planet Earth. And that might not be for everyone, but it's a great way to affirm that what I do affects everyone. And so I choose to do this so that we all can lift in consciousness to this new hologram of the new Earth. And finally, if you have any questions, please type them in. We also have a core team, and it's right now we meet almost daily at 8 a.m. and 1 p.m. Pacific. We have been doing meditations with Orin. Those are meditations I've been using for, I think right now it's been about 25 years. I use them every day anyway. And so I invited others to join if they want to. We've had about 30 people joining every day. We do it twice a day for those who are in Australia, joining at 1 p.m. Pacific, a.m. Pacific for us here in the US and also UK. These meditations that we have been using, really, they build the light body. And so that's the goal right now until we receive guidance for the next step. And please do share the guidance that you receive through the Green Tower website, the Facebook group. It's really great to know what everybody's up to and, you know, what tasks and requests you receive from the divine.